The homeless black man came to the wedding, but when the groom sees him, something shocking happened. The church was breathtaking. Cream-cold walls glowed beneath chandeliers, and sunlight poured through stained glass windows, bathing the aisle in warm gold. Rows of white roses lined every pew. The string quartet played softly in the background, the air heavy with expectation. Julia Anders stood just beyond the entrance in her bridal gown, hands trembling slightly around her bouquet. Everyone said she looked like a dream, but her mind was racing, not with doubt, but memories, faces, moments, small things that slipped in the cracks before a life-changing promise. Today she was marrying Daniel Whitmore, the son of a real estate magnate, handsome, polished, from a world of yacht parties, charity galas, and custom suits. He had proposed under the Eiffel Tower. Everyone said they were a perfect match. So why did her chest feel so tight? The music shifted, the signal. Guests turned in their seats. Cameras lifted, the doors opened. But before Julia could take a step, a murmur rippled through the church. Someone was walking down the aisle, but it wasn't her. A man, thin, bearded, dark-skinned, hair gray and unkempt, his clothes hung loosely, dusty, worn. He walked slowly but firmly, eyes fixed ahead. Some guests whispered, others recoiled. The ushers moved forward, but Julia stepped out from the side and gasped, her voice trembling. "Elijah." The man looked at her and gave a gentle nod. For a moment, the entire room was silent. Julia hadn't seen him in nearly 7 years. Back in college, she used to pass him every morning. He sat near the bookstore, always quiet, never asking for anything, while others hurried past or looked away. Julia had once sat beside him and handed him a peanut butter sandwich. He'd smiled, said, "Thank you," and then he was gone. She never forgot his eyes. And now he was here. Daniel stood at the altar, frozen, his jaw clenched. "Elijah," he muttered, barely audible. His voice was tight, defensive. Julia looked back and forth between them. "You know him?" Daniel's lips parted. "He's nobody," he said quickly. He must be confused. Elijah stopped mid-aisle. From the inside pocket of his jacket, he pulled out a folded photo. His fingers shook slightly as he unfolded it, revealing a crinkled image. He held it up high enough for Julia to see. It was her, smiling in jeans and a university hoodie, sitting on a stone bench beside Elijah. In her hand, a sandwich. In his hand, a card, and beneath it, taped carefully, was that very card. Julia remembered writing it. "You matter. Stay strong, Julia." A lump rose in her throat. She'd forgotten the exact words, but he hadn't. The guests watched in stunned silence. No one knew what to say. Daniel stepped forward, voice low and firm. "You need to leave now." But Elijah's eyes didn't flinch. He turned his gaze to Julia. "I didn't come to ruin anything," he said quietly. "I came to tell the truth." And that's when Daniel snapped. "That's enough." He barked. "He's delusional. Someone get him out, Daniel." Julia interrupted. "Let him speak." Her voice was steady, stronger than she expected. Daniel looked at her like she had lost her mind, but she kept her eyes on Elijah. Elijah stepped closer, but not too close, just enough to be heard. "Years ago," he began, "I wasn't always homeless. I had a job, a home, a small life, but it was mine." He swallowed hard. Then one night, a group of college boys came, laughing, recording. One offered me food, another money. I thought it was kindness. Julia's heart stopped. Elijah looked down. They poured beer on me, made me dance, mocked me, filmed it, said it was an experiment. It went viral. I lost my job the next week. My landlord kicked me out. No one cared what happened after that. He finally looked at Daniel. "You were one of them." The room went silent. Julia's eyes widened. She turned to Daniel. "Is that true?" Daniel looked around, faces staring, breath held. He forced a laugh. "Of course not. He's making it up. You believe this? It's our wedding, Julia." But Julia wasn't smiling. She was staring, remembering, thinking, and Daniel knew it. "Elijah," she said softly, "why come now?" The man looked at her, eyes tired but sincere. Because I saw your photo in the paper, and I remembered the kindness you gave me, and when no one else did. I didn't come for revenge. I came to make sure the girl who saw me once could see clearly again. Julia didn't say anything. She just looked at the man standing beside her, the man she was supposed to marry, the man whose face was now tight with fear. She held up the card Elijah had brought with him and then whispered, "You kept this all these years." But he couldn't even keep his conscience for one. The silence inside the church felt louder than any thunderstorm. Daniel stood at the altar, fists clenched at his sides, jaw tight, eyes darting from guest to guest. His perfectly pressed tuxedo looked smaller somehow, like it no longer fit him. Julia didn't speak at first. She was still holding the card, her own handwriting, crinkled with time and carried by a man most people wouldn't even look at twice. She traced her thumb over the faded ink. "You kept this," she said again, barely above a whisper. Elijah gave a single nod. Daniel stepped closer to her. "Julia, don't let him ruin this. He's lying. He's just trying to sabotage us." She looked at him, not in anger, but with a quiet ache. "No, Daniel," she said gently. "He's trying to protect me." The room shifted. The guests, once stunned into stillness, now leaned in. Some exchanged glances. Others whispered, brows furrowed. Everyone could feel it, the atmosphere of truth pressing down on every breath. "You told me you volunteered in college," Julia said, her voice trembling, "that you served food to the homeless, donated winter coats." "I did," Daniel said quickly. "You told me you respected people. You told me you would never treat anyone like they were beneath you?" Daniel opened his mouth, but no words came. Elijah didn't interrupt. He just stood there, still grounded. Julia turned toward him again. "Elijah, what happened to you because of that video? Did anyone ever apologize?" He shook his head slowly. No one ever came back. They laughed. They walked away. And I was left to carry their choices. Her throat tightened. "And you saw my photo in the paper and came here not to humiliate, but to warn me. I came because you were the only one who ever looked at me like I was a person." Daniel's voice cracked with frustration. "This is ridiculous. You don't even know this man." "But I know you now," Julia said softly. Daniel froze. And just like that, something in Julia's posture changed. She stood taller, eyes clearer. She turned toward the pastor. "I need a moment." Then to the guests. "I'm sorry. I know this is hard to watch. Believe me, it's even harder to feel." She looked at her parents, then at Daniel's, who were visibly distressed but silent. "I've spent the last year planning this wedding. Perfect invitations, perfect decorations, perfect photos. But none of it means anything if the man standing beside me doesn't know the value of a human life." She looked at Daniel. "I was ready to build a life with you. But if you could do something like that, if you could be part of something so cruel and hide it for years, then I don't know who you are anymore." She turned to Elijah. "You may not have anything, Elijah, but today you gave me everything I needed." The guests were stunned as Julia walked down from the altar, not toward Daniel, but toward Elijah. She placed the card in his hand. "Keep it. You reminded me who I am." Then she turned back to the crowd. "This wedding is over." Gasps filled the air. One guest began to clap slowly. Others joined. It wasn't loud or theatrical. It was quiet, respectful. Julia didn't cry. She didn't run. She walked out of church with her head high, the train of her dress trailing behind her like a flag of freedom. Elijah stayed behind, unsure whether to follow. But then at the church doors, she turned to him. "Come with me," she said. They sat on the church steps. Sunlight filtered through the clouds as guests quietly exited. Julia kicked off her heels. Elijah looked down at his worn shoes. Embarrassed. "I didn't mean to cause a scene," she shook her head. "You didn't cause anything. You revealed everything." They sat in silence for a long while. "Do you have anywhere to stay?" she asked finally. Elijah shrugged. "There's a shelter across town. I'll go back there." She reached into her small clutch purse and pulled out her phone. "You're not going back there," she said, dialing someone. "You're going to my friend Marta's community center. She helps people get back on their feet." You deserve a fresh start. He looked at her, unsure. Why would you do that? Because you protected me, she said. And because I remember what I wrote on that card. She smiled. You matter. Over the month that followed, Julia changed her life. She left behind the image of perfection and leaned into something deeper, truth. She volunteered. She rebuilt friendships. She stayed in touch with Elijah, who, thanks to help from the community center, eventually got housing and began working part-time at a nonprofit that helped at-risk youth. 1 year later, Elijah sent her a photo. He was smiling, standing beside a young man he had just mentored, holding a card on it in familiar handwriting. You matter. Stay strong. Julia. Julia never got married that day, but she gained something else. Clarity, courage, a friend, a reminder that the most important vows are the ones we make to ourselves and to the kind of people we choose to believe in. And that sometimes the person who walks in from the cold isn't there to ruin your life. They're there to save it. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to give it thumbs up and hit that subscribe button for more emotional, dramatic, and unexpected tales. And let us know in the comments, where in the world are you watching from? We love hearing from all of you. Until next time, stay kind, stay curious, and